and Gloucester County Commissioner Nick DeSilvio. Voters in this district have been voting for about 2 weeks now. So I thank both candidates for coming on to join us in this forum. I am David Wildstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe. Matt Rooney, the editor of Save Jersey, is joining me tonight. We will together moderate this important debate to select a nominee in one of New Jersey's most competitive legislative districts. The candidates, and I'll just run through this very quickly, the candidates have received the rules in advance. Matt and I have prepared the questions. We did not share them in advance. We'll start with a 90-second opening statement. Matt and I are going to alternate questions, 60 seconds for a response and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. I will respectfully ask the candidates to stick to their allotted time. What I'll do is I'll give you a warning if you're going on too long, just raising my hand. It's a signal to wrap it up. If you do go over, I'll raise my hand again. And if that doesn't work, then I'll interrupt. But as I always say, we've got a lot of ground to cover. So we hope that you'll keep within those time slots. The other thing to say, and I say this in every debate, is that my role and Matt's role is that of being a moderator. We're not here to offer our own opinions. We're not part of your debate. And so we're going to moderate, and we'll look to each of you to make sure that what your opponent says is fact-based. If you have something that you want to add, if you've been attacked, we'll give you some extra time. We conducted a coin toss before the start of this debate, and Commissioner DeSilvio won. He elected to go second in the opening and second in the closing. So, Councilman DelBorrello, we'll start with your opening statement.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. First, thank you to New Jersey Globe and Save Jersey for sponsoring and moderating this debate. Thank you to the Republican voters of the 4th Legislative District for tuning in and participating in this democracy. And thank you to Commissioner DeSilvio for agreeing to join with me tonight. My name is Chris DelBorrello, and I'm running for state senator because New Jersey is unaffordable, is unsafe, and the path we are on is unsustainable. As an entrepreneur and chief compliance officer for my family's business, I know what it takes to balance a budget, to make payroll, to create jobs, and I know what the state can do to make it easier for businesses to grow and succeed in our state. As a former Washington Township councilman, I took on the Norcross Democrat machine and won. We beat the entrenched Democrats at the polls and then ushered in conservative fiscal reforms that made local government more efficient, more transparent, and responsive to residents. I'm proud to be running with U.S. Navy Reserve veteran and former Buena Borough Councilman Matt Walker and Pittman Middle School teacher Amanda Esposito. Together, we will pursue a conservative agenda that is pro-taxpayer, that is pro-parent, pro-police, and pro-smart growth. And better than that, we will be the conservative fighters our Republican Party needs to take on Phil Murphy and the radical left that is destroying our state. Thank you, and I look forward to a spirited debate.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Good evening, everyone. Except to my liberal opponent, Chris Defund the Police DelBorrello. Thank you, David and Matt, for hosting us and giving me the platform to discuss my conservative values and expose what a fraud Chris is. I'm running for Senate for all the right reasons. First, I'm fighting for my family and every South Jersey family like it. I got into public service to make a difference for my daughter. I knew I could make a difference for the special needs community, and I see a path to keep fighting to accomplish that in the state Senate. Second, I'm a patriot. I served my country in the Navy, and I feel the call to serve again, this time in the legislature. Liberal politicians, like the ones who are cheering on Chris Defund the Police DelBorrello tonight, are taking our nation, our state, and South Jersey in the wrong direction. Third, I'm a conservative. I believe the way to fix our broken system is through principled conservative values. We need rock-ribbed, real Republicans in Trenton who will stop the out-of-control spending, support our police, and stand up to work political insiders. Chris, defund the police DelBorrello has already been on the wrong side of all these issues. And finally, because I'm battle tested and a proven winner, I won a tough race in New Jersey's most competitive county for commissioner, and I will win in November. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This first question is for Councilman DelBorrello. Councilman, under Democrat leadership, Trenton has increased spending 53% over the last 6 years. Phil Murphy's latest budget proposal is up $18 billion over Chris Christie's final budget. Spending is undeniably out of control, and many of your voters believe it's time for drastic measures. Can you name one specific state department or agency which, if Republicans had the ability to do so, you would support eliminating immediately?
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the question. Look, you can't take you have to take a full approach to this topic. You know, as you said, 53% spending increase over the last 5 years from Chris Christie's budget. That's unsustainable. So day one, we have to look at the budget. My record in Washington Township speaks for itself. We flattened the line on the tax levy, and we looked at everything. Mayor Moriarty, the Democrat who I will be going up against in November, if I'm lucky enough the voters to vote me through June 6th, he did so much spending that he had to create a special shed tax. I came in with my running mates. We killed the shed tax. We got rid of it. Open space. We talked to the Open Space Committee. We talked to the Environmental Board. We had $1 million surplus in the Open Space Fund, and we weren't buying any more properties. So we cut that. We flattened the line, and I'm happy to say that we controlled the line on taxes, and that's what I'll take with me to Trenton.
Thank you. Before we move to Commissioner DeSilvio, though, do you have one department or agency that you would cut or support cutting?
Yeah, we have to look at everything. As I said before, everything's on the table. Nothing would be off the table if I was up there.
Commissioner DeSilvio?
Right now, I can't pinpoint a specific department. But what I can tell you is my record is solid with spending. I saved the taxpayers of Franklin while I was on the Board of Education $500,000 over a course of 6 years. And the past 2 years, we forced a 0% tax increase, even though me and my running mate were in the minority. So I have a proven record of cutting spending, saving money, but keeping everything else intact. While on the other hand, my opponent, Mr. DelBorrello, he voted to raise taxes multiple times and said he was even proud to do so while he was on council.
Let me just respond to that because I was personally attacked there. That's not true. That's very inaccurate. Commissioner DeSilvio was not on council 15 years ago. He has no idea what he's talking about. I didn't vote for multiple tax increases. In fact, I killed taxes and I cut taxes. Anybody you ask in Washington Township would say the same thing. And that's why my brother won in a landslide last year and got back on council for Peter DelBorrello. So that's inaccurate. But I will tell you what's accurate. This whole $500,000 that Commissioner DeSilvio is talking about on the school board, he actually raised taxes 4 times in a row. 4 years in a row, he batted 1,000. Now in baseball, that's a great record. You know, you're batting 1,000, you get a hit every time. But in politics, that's really bad. Four times in a row on school board, 20% tax increase. That's his record.
There you go again. Do I get to respond to that?
Since you were mentioned, you can briefly respond.
Okay. Everything that I've said just now can be proven. It's called reading the minutes. Okay. Everything that I've done, I've accomplished on the board. I've saved $500,000 over the course of 6 years. You could just read the budgets and read the minutes. Okay. When I tell you that Mr. DelBorrello raised taxes and he said he was proud to do so, he said it in an article. So I don't understand where he's coming up with this nonsense that he said that he didn't do it. Like, he was quoted in an article. So, you know, that's my defense. And, you know, I'm sticking with it.
Okay. Thank you. This next question is for Commissioner DeSilvio. Year in and year out, New Jersey Republicans build their state campaign.
I can't hear you.
Reigning. Yes?
You sounded muffled for a minute.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? David, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll start again, Commissioner. So, Commissioner, New Jersey Republicans year in and year out build their state campaigns around the promise of cutting or at least reining in taxes. But despite having the nation's worst tax climate, New Jersey Republicans haven't won a legislative cycle in over 2 decades now, and their record in statewide contests for single offices isn't much better. So what, if anything, do you believe is wrong with the NJGOP's tax messaging? And should you become the Republican nominee in LD4 in just about a month's time, what, if anything, would you do differently on the campaign trail?
I don't think there's anything wrong with their messaging. I mean, a conservative is a conservative. You know, they want to cut taxes. They want to control spending. If I had the opportunity and to serve you as a state senator, I would start with the school funding formula. Right now, it's ridiculous. That would be, as far as I can see, that would be an immediate impact to property taxes if we equalize the school funding formula, because there's really no reason why Lindenwold pays $20,000 per student, but yet in-state tuition for colleges is around $18,000 on average. So that is utterly ridiculous. So that's what I would attack first.
Okay, thank you, Councilman DelBorrello.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Listen, sometimes it comes down to gerrymandered lines where, frankly, Republicans have the right message, but they're in a blue district and it's very difficult to win. You know, that we were fortunate enough to have the LD4 in the last redraw map to go purple instead of solid blue. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But on this other issue, why do Republicans not win in New Jersey? It's because you have Republicans like Nick DeSilvio, who, despite saying they're not going to raise taxes, they do it 4 years in a row on school board. And despite getting to the commissioner board and, you know, being put there by the people to be a stop against the Norcross Democrats, he rubber stamps their budget. So that's an issue. And then the other issue with Mr. DeSilvio is that he has denigrated every segment of the population that you could possibly think of and is unelectable in November, which the Democrats know, which they are funding his campaign. He's talked about people of Arab descent. He's talked about Catholics. He's talked about building and trades, disavowing building and trades, union members and non-union members alike. He's talked about young women, calling them evil and murderers if they have to get abortion. So when you have this kind of rhetoric from a candidate like that, that's why Republicans can't win.
Commissioner, you were mentioned, if you want to respond.
That's what he considers it. It's rhetoric, because that's all it is. None of what he said can be proven. But what I can prove is that Mr. DelBorrello is the actual person receiving money from the Democrats. Okay, his campaign is being funded by Stronger Foundations, okay, which is a well-known Democratic PAC that supported Hillary Clinton and supports Phil Murphy. And, you know, he's being he was saying that I'm being funded by the Democrats. No. He's also, it's a proven fact that he's defunded the police. Okay. That's on video. And he's also, it's also proven that he runs a morally bankrupt business. Okay. That rented strippers and facilitated fraud. So all of this can be proven. Okay. Anything that he says about me is conjecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman DelBorrello, we all hope that this will be a substantive debate and a substantive campaign, but it's clear that a big part of this conversation is about personalities. And so it's reasonable for there to be a discussion from both sides about the electability of the Republican nominee. I've seen things on social media about your family business. Frankly, it makes me blush. It includes an entertainment company that Politico described as strippers and leprechauns. Someone involved in your check cashing company went to prison for money laundering. What exactly is your involvement in your company, and what has been said about you that is accurate and inaccurate?
Yeah, so everything that Nick DeSilvio is putting out from his consultants and his handlers, he should be ashamed of himself because he knows 100% what he's saying is not true. And he should apologize to my family for going this route. But I'm not surprised that he uses this tactic, the same Norcross Democrat tactic that they've used for the last 15 years against me and my family because we threatened their power. Listen, when that company was started, it was 2002. I was in high school. I was in Mr. Gallagher's chemistry class. I was more worried about if there was pizza, that Pizza Friday at the cafeteria. He knows that. He doesn't care about the truth. He just wants to do a smear campaign against me and my family. As far as my half brother is concerned, yes, he did go rogue. I was in a physician assistant school at the time. I was in Drexel University program, one of the top 10 physician assistant programs in the country. My father and my brother called me. They said we had a problem with my half brother. They asked me to leave my career in medicine. I chose to leave my career in medicine to come and help my family in my time of need. I will not apologize for that. I turned around our compliance department. I turned around our product line, and we became an award-winning organization. And that's what I'll do in Trenton because I fixed it in the private sector. I can fix it in Trenton. Mr. DeSilvio will just be a rubber stamp for the Trenton Democrats because that's what he's done at Gloucester County, just rubber stamp their budget that defunded the police $681,000, the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Corrections.
Oh my goodness. First of all, Tasteful Temptations is the name of that stripper establishment that was in business in 2012 when he was on the council. Okay. Mr. DelBorrello has been quoted in a Politico article saying that he wasn't part of the Tasteful Temptations. It was his brother. So now he's throwing his brother under the bus, and his brother is a Washington Township councilman right now. Okay. And then his other brother, his half brother, was indicted, and he was money laundering and embezzling for 4 years. Are you going to tell me that you were involved in this business and you had no idea as the chief compliance officer, and you had no idea that any of this was going on? And then he's trying to tell me that I should know better. Yeah, I didn't even know about it. Honestly, I didn't know about it. So until it was brought to my attention. All right. And I'm not going to address the defunding the police thing because he knows he's guilty of defunding the police. I have an endorsement from the sheriff. Okay. Do you have an endorsement from your chief of police that you defunded?
Okay, Mr. DeSilvio, let's give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, obviously, Mr. DeSilvio is a little upset right now, so I'll give him a chance to calm down. But listen, Nick, I know you wanted to concoct this story about defunding the police because that's what you did. So, of course, in politics, for everybody watching, it's called a bait and switch. You accuse your opponent of something you did yourself. Okay, so he's been on commissioner for 12 months, and in that 12 months, he's been rubber stamping 2 Democrat budgets that defunded the sheriff's department, our first Republican elected sheriff in over 30 years, and he chooses as the first order of business to cut his funding $681,000. And even Sheriff Salmon said, "What are you doing? Why would you do that to me?"
Okay, thank you.
There's zero proof of that. Okay.
It's in the budget, Nick. It's in the budget. 2023 budget.
Salmon's endorsed me. Okay. Sheriff Salmon's endorsed me. All right. Why don't you ask Sheriff Salmon's?
Okay. Let me move on.
It's that easy.
A lot to cover. Commissioner, I want to ask you a question. There are people in your party who've used some of your social media posts as extreme, including one which has now been removed that said, "I believe in Jesus, no Muslims here." You're running in a district that Republicans haven't won in 22 years. What's your strategy to explain your social media history to moderates, to conservative Democrats that you're going to need to win in November?
You mean based off the social media posts? I'm confused about the question.
Right. So the question is you have a history of posting and retweeting or liking on Facebook or reposting on Facebook tweets that some people in your or social media posts that some people in your party, they say it's extreme. They talk about Muslims, about women. Some of this isn't there anymore. Some of this was documented, but it's now been removed. So how are you going to explain that?
Well, I can explain it right now by saying that I don't support any of those issues. All right. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Muslims. I love everybody. So I don't, as far as the social media posts being extreme, I would like to see proof of that.
Okay.
Well, I have the proof right here, Nick. It's right in the mailer that they attacked 3 separate Republicans with last year. Okay, saying you think it's never medically necessary for the life of a mother. That's not even science.
Well, that was a lie. That was a lie.
No. Hold up. It's my time to talk. It's my time to talk.
No, it's not.
Yeah, yes, it is.
It's still my half a minute.
No,
Commissioner, let's let Mr. DelBorrello answer. It's his time to respond, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is you did like social posts that said that you didn't want Arabs living next to you. You did support calling women evil and murderers on your Facebook page. You and your running mate, Michael Clark, support a man that says Catholics are in the bondage of their own sin and they don't get the gospel. So with alienated all of those segments of population, how in the world could you win a November election? It's impossible. The only reason you won 2 years ago was because nobody knew about your Facebook post then, and you rode the coattails of Jack Ciattarelli. I mean, let's face it. You rode the coattails of Jack Ciattarelli, and then you turned your back on him, so you have no support from him.
Mm-hmm.
You have alienated every segment of the population, and you need to apologize to all these people, frankly.
Let's go back to Commissioner DeSilvio.
First of all, I don't really need to apologize to you for anything.
No, to the people.
No, but I can honestly tell you that 50,000 people elected me in a Democratic district. Okay. Jack Ciattarelli lost and I won in Gloucester County. All right. As far as the social media posts are concerned, and that flyer that you showed me just now, okay, that's called, I guess, acceptable slander, because you're allowed to use that in politics. You can actually lie and use it. All right. That flyer also says that I am a satanic cannibal. Okay. So that would be something interesting for my preacher to know as well, that I'm a satanic cannibal, my pastor.
Yeah.
So, I don't believe any of that flyers. The flyers, they're just, it's all bogus.
So all your flyers you're currently sending in a smear campaign are bogus as well, then, I guess.
Because they're all proven.
Right.
They're all proven.
Right?
You have a video out,
and this needs
and it's all proven by
this is
articles, newspaper articles, and videos that the words came out of your mouth.
This is not factual. First of all, Jack Ciattarelli won Gloucester County by 10,000 votes. That's the facts. So you're misrepresenting his vote total. He won by 10,000 votes. You rode his coattails, and now you made our 3 candidates last year lose because of your comments.
All right, so let's move on, because we have
which comments did I make them lose?
All right, gentlemen. What we're going to do is we're going to move on.
No, we're not.
Go to the next question, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more time for more back and forth. This next question is directed to Councilman DelBorrello. New Jersey just celebrated its 1-year anniversary of its experiment with legal recreational marijuana. Last spring, shortly after legal weed sales began in the Garden State, Senate President, Democrat Nicholas Scutari introduced legislation to legalize magic mushrooms. Some states have gone further. Where do you believe our state government should draw the line, if at all, in the realm of regulating an adult's ability to possess and use drugs? Has New Jersey already gone too far? Has it achieved the right balance? Or does liberty demand, as some libertarians and liberals on opposite sides of the divide, they believe that we should still go further?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, when they first legalized marijuana, I said to people at the time that it's a tax grab, and little and behold, a couple years into it, in Colorado and states like Washington, the marijuana industry is finding it hard to survive with the heavy tax burden that they place on the marijuana. In fact, there's been a lot of stocks that have gone down in medical and cannabis and things of that nature. So the taxation on the medical and recreational marijuana has been totally constricted the industry. As far as libertarian ideals, and look, we're the party of individualism. And so, on certain issues, we have to let people live their lives. Does that mean we need to legalize every single drug? No, we have to find common ground with people and stakeholders that are involved in this issue. Commissioner
DeSilvio?
This issue is a little bit personal with me because my special needs daughter is on medical marijuana right now. So I think that I am for medical marijuana. I think that recreational marijuana is okay if it's regulated properly, and that's how I feel about it.
Okay, just maybe briefly to ask both candidates directly, would you support legalizing magic mushrooms, as they're called, psychedelic mushrooms, or any other drug besides marijuana? Councilman DelBorrello.
No, I would not be for that.
Commissioner?
No, I will not be for that either.
Thank you. Now, let's move on to another question that's going to be directed first to Commissioner DeSilvio. Back in April, the state of Montana became the first in the U.S. to initiate a state ban on TikTok. Trenton has already banned the controversial app on many state devices, but thus far has not pursued a broader ban, although Governor Murphy has indicated that he has an open mind given ongoing concerns about the application. Would you support a statewide ban on TikTok?
That's a good question. Thank you for that question. TikTok is very popular amongst the young crowd right now, and I find it interesting sometimes too to watch. But I've heard that it has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. That's just a rumor I hear. So if that is the case, then I guess I would be for a state ban. Maybe TikTok can get bought out by an American company, and we can make the profit off of it. Consider it a revenue.
Councilman DelBorrello?
Yeah, well, I totally wholeheartedly agree with the ban for government employees. We shouldn't have government employees on TikTok while they're, whatever sensitive information that they're working on at the time. As far as social media in general, I am not a big social media guy. And so I really think we need to step back as a society as whole and study the effects of this social media on our children. And there's very clear correlations about the number of suicides, the number of polarization between the two parties, the far left and the far right, and the rise of social media corresponding with that. I think we need to step back as a society and really, really study the effects of social media, especially on our children.
Thank you. Councilman DelBorrello, I'll start with you on this question. You and Commissioner DeSilvio are both pro-life. What I'd like to know is a specific number, the number of weeks into a pregnancy where you would support a ban on abortion. And the governor of Florida signed a 6-week ban. Senator Durr's bill is at 12 weeks. Congressman Chris Smith has proposed a national ban of 15 weeks. Congressman King campaigned last year on 20 weeks. So what I'm looking for Councilman, is a number, the number of weeks, whether it's 0 or up till delivery, that you would feel comfortable banning abortion.
Look, what I'll say is definitely what you said. I'm Roman Catholic, so I am personally pro-life with minimal exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think the Trenton Democrats have gotten this issue wrong. They've gone too far left. They have no limit whatsoever up into through the 9th month. They do not require parental consent for women under 18 years old. So I think that's outside the mainstream of what Americans are saying in the studies when we study this. But at the same time, I think Nick DeSilvio goes too far. I mean, he said that it's never medically necessary to save the life of a mother. I'm offended by that. I have a wife that's an L&D nurse, labor and delivery. She sees a lot of things that threaten the life of a mother. And he also said that if you happen to have an abortion, that you're evil and you're a murderer. My take is, if you happen to have an abortion, come sit down with me. Let's have some counseling. Let's have some therapy, because you're going to need it when those things come up and you find yourself in that position. I want to bring people together, not divide us.
And Councilman, before we go to Mr. DeSilvio, Commissioner DeSilvio, I'm still looking for a number. If you have one, the number of weeks where you would say, since this is the government's role, since this is state government's role, and if the bill came before you, what's your number?
Yeah, I mean, look, the 8-week number that some are proposing, I mean, some people don't even know they're pregnant until the 4th or 5th week. So those kind of numbers are just frankly not reasonable. And so, yeah, we need something in the 15-week range.
Okay. Commissioner DeSilvio, it's the same question. I'm seeking a number from you.
I would say, wow. I guess a heartbeat starts at 4 weeks. So 4 to 6 weeks is my number, if you're asking for a number. And I also like to address the fact that Mr. DelBorrello brought up the fact that that I said that abortion is never medically necessary. That is incorrect. That never came out of my mouth. So I don't know where he's getting his information from, but that's not true. But let me just be clear about this. I am a pro-life candidate. I do believe that in there's certain exceptions with rape, incest, and the life of the mother, where abortion could be, you can have an abortion at that point. But I do believe that the act itself is a decision between the mother, her doctor, and her God. And that's what I'll say.
Yeah, and just to correct Mr. DeSilvio, he never verbally said it. You're right, Nick. You tweeted it out.
No, I never tweeted it.
Yes, you did.
No.
You tweeted it out. It's there for everybody to see it. He scrubbed it, but it was there. It was never medically necessary. Then he gave a report to a reporter, flip-flopping. And so, yes, we have a flip-flopper here too, as in Mr. DeSilvio's case.
Thank you. And Commissioner DeSilvio, this next question is for you. The Florida legislature has passed a bill that would allow the state to take transgender minors away from their families if they're receiving gender-affirming care. If that bill were to be voted on in the New Jersey State Senate and you were a senator, would you support a bill like that?
For transgender children to be taken away from their parents?
Yes, that's the bill that Florida passed.
I don't know anything about that bill. I'd have to read up on it. But my first thought is no. Children belong with their parents. That's where they find all the love. So I would not agree with that.
Thank you. And Councilman DelBorrello, the same question. Would you vote for this bill that was passed in Florida?
No, I would not vote for that. But let me just say this. I do not believe at all that we should be pumping our children with hormone blocking drugs as early as some people are doing. And I think we should allow our children to grow and expand and be nurtured in a loving environment. But as far as pumping our children with hormone blocking drugs, I am not for that. I think that decision should be left to the child as they grow 18, 21, and can choose for themselves once they're fully developed.
Thank you. And so this is the point in the debate where each candidate will ask a question of their opponent. I think we may have arguably already had these moments in this debate, but those are the rules that we agreed to, so we'll go back to it. So Commissioner DeSilvio, I'll ask you ask a brief question of your opponent.
Yeah, first I'd like to say you've said you were proud to raise taxes in the past. You're backed by special interests that support Hillary Clinton and Phil Murphy and higher taxes. My question to you is, do you support the gas tax too?
Yeah, so here's the situation, which Nick DeSilvio is playing the typical politician's game where we divide everybody up and conquer. And I will not participate in that game. I will not turn my back on people. His own union doesn't support him. What does that tell you about Mr. DeSilvio? His own union, his running mate, Denise Gonzalez's union, there's the same union, 351 electrician union. They are not supporting them. So to divide people is just hypocrisy. And look, Nick, politicians raided the Transportation Trust Fund. Elections have consequences. And instead of blaming everybody else, blame the politicians, the governors that have been raiding the TTF for 30 years and it went bankrupt. And it's other politicians like me that have to clean up that mess. And I had to do it as a councilman from 2010 to 2014. My tax record speaks for itself. Washington Township residents were happy with us, and that's why they voted my brother again in a landslide. In a year where you lost last year, my brother was voted in a landslide.
Thank you. And Commissioner, I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
He never answered my question. That was a lot of bull crap coming out of his mouth, but no, he didn't ever answer the question. Do you support the gas tax too?
The gas tax is statutorily formulated, Nick. You don't know what
You support it.
Nick, it's statutory. It's right by statutory. You don't know what you're talking about. It's formulated every year by the Treasury for the next 3 years.
All right, I think we've gotten.
Are you in support of it?
Let me go. Let's go to Councilman DelBorrello. It's your chance to ask a question of Commissioner DeSilvio.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSilvio, 2 years ago, you were elected to stand up to the Norcross-Sweeney Democrat machine and fight for Gloucester County taxpayers. Instead, you rubber stamped 2 Democrat budgets that kept our property taxes the highest in any county in South Jersey and slashed spending for our own Republican sheriff and the corrections department, siding with county Democrats to defund the police. Will you admit tonight that you voted for 2 Democrat budgets? Given that, explain why any Republican should trust you to fight against Phil Murphy and the radical left in Trenton when you've proven you can't do it here in Gloucester County.
You obviously cannot read a budget. Obviously. There's 2 Republicans on that commissioner board, 5 Democrats. Okay. Getting anything passed through there is a miracle in itself. And we forced a 0% tax increase this year. Okay. That's the first time it's been done in 15 years in Gloucester County, a 0% tax increase. So I really have no idea what you're talking about. All right. You like to babble on and talk out the side of your head, but it's a 0% tax increase. So
you think the status quo is normal? So you want everybody
It's
to
not-
pay the largest,
it wasn't the
largest
status quo.
taxes in the
It
county.
wasn't the status quo.
We have the largest tax base in the county in Gloucester, and you thought the status quo was normal. Just vote with the Democrats. Just vote rubber stamp. And so
It was a 0%,
flat.
0% tax increase.
You
0%.
We got to turn this down.
Sheriff.
We've got to lower the temperature a little bit. Mr. DelBorrello, you've asked 2 questions. I'll let
0% tax increase. I don't see how that's so hard to understand.
You cut the sheriff department $681,000.
That is a lie.
It's not a lie.
Yeah, it is.
I read the budget in 2023.
Yeah, I will. I've read it. I went over it. I
don't
approved
think
it.
you have.
I know, dude. I know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'll tell you what, the sheriff was okay with that. We cut the Capitol.
Oh, so
We
now
cut-
you did cut it. No, oh, so now you did cut the sheriff. Okay, all right, now we got the truth.
We slight cut the Capitol, but we didn't lose jobs like we lost in Washington Township when they wanted 10 officers and you only approved 2. Now
That's
you
not
put the safety of Washington Township in jeopardy.
Not true.
Don't give me any crap, dude.
Okay. That was,
Well, if anybody wants this representing them in Trenton, I don't
that is what these debates are for, is for an interactive exchange. And let's we have a lot more. Let's go back to Matt Rooney. Maybe there'll be some more mushroom questions, because that does seem to pull the temperature down on everybody here. So Matt, we'll go to you for the next 2.
That was my intended effect, David. Mission accomplished. We're going to start with Councilman DelBorrello on this next question. Of all the contentious issues in this particular primary, and there have been many, one of them is the very process itself through which a nominee is chosen. Uncoincidentally, there is currently a pending federal court case which could spell the end of the fabled county line. New Jersey's unique system of awarding preferential ballot placement to party organization-backed candidates. Activists, on the one hand, allege that lines inhibit democracy and shore up political machines. Proponents of lines, on the other hand, counter that strong party organizations are actually good for our republic's political process. My question for you is simply, who's correct?
Yeah, I support county lines. I mean, look, this was a process, but I support county lines with counties that have conventions where delegates can actually vote, which is what happened in Atlantic County. That did not, unfortunately, happen in Gloucester County. The chairwoman just appointed 3 people as the county line with no say whatsoever from anybody in the county, no delegates, no county committee people. And so when you have that type of process, yeah, I'm against that. But when you have a convention where the candidates can go to the floor and make their case, then the county line stands with those delegates voting for the county line.
Commissioner DeSilvio?
Are you talking about the Atlantic County Convention where they voted on a girl who wasn't even there as one of your running mates? That convention? I'm for. Let me just briefly say this. Gloucester County and Camden County, they had an open, I guess you could say, an open time period where you were allowed to submit your letters of interest and resumes. Okay. The deadline was originally like December 6th, but they were expanded to like the beginning of February. Okay. They were properly vetted. We were interviewed, and the county chairs picked the candidate. Okay. Now, whatever process is in place, I will adhere to. Okay. I didn't just decide to enter the race after the vetting process was done. That does nothing but split the party up and allows the Democrats to win. This is the reason why we have that vetting process in place. Okay? So that's all I have to say. If there's a convention or a line, whoever picks the line, I'll adhere to anything that they have to say. Okay? I'll adhere to any procedure that they have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Let me just add, Matt, real quick though.
sure, go ahead.
The process was, this December 1st, and then it was pushed back to February 5th or whatever he's talking about. But the fact of the matter is, his running mate Michael Clark was anointed by Rizzo back in October of last year that he would be the next assemblyman from LD4. So don't let Commissioner DeSilvio fool everybody into thinking there was a process. The process was Denise Gonzalez, his other running mate, has been running and has been demanding to run again for the last 3 years. Michael Clark was anointed by Rizzo to run, and Nick DeSilvio is going to help Jackie Vigilante get a judgeship, so that's why he was picked.
There you go again. This guy just makes up lies. I mean, I'm helping Miss Jackie Vigilante to get a judgeship. That's a new one. That's a new one. And he can't even look at me. Look, he's looking down at his paper. Look, he decided to enter the race, okay, because of his I guess you could say adopted father and master Don Purdy asked him to run, right? Because he probably didn't like any of the candidates. All right, so I don't want to hear any of this crap where he's talking about. He decided to enter the race right after he found out that Madden was retiring. He thought, oh man, maybe I can run for it. And then he called up his robot to the establishment buddy Don Purdy and said, "Yeah, come on, man, run against DeSilvio."
Okay, thank you. And Matt, we're still with you.
Thank you, David. Commissioner DeSilvio, we're going to start with you for this question. As I'm sure you're aware, Governor Murphy, on his watch, turned New Jersey into a sanctuary state where illegal aliens have access to a variety of subsidized services without fear of New Jersey authorities cooperating with federal law enforcement in most cases. Meanwhile, we've already talked about New Jersey spending problems tonight, and now many New Jersey schools are facing draconian student aid cuts, which in some districts are affecting basic school services like busing. Just last year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signaled he'd consider challenging a 1982 federal ruling that prohibited states from refusing to pay for the public education of a child who isn't present legally in the United States. Would you support, as a legislator, such a lawsuit?
I would have to say I would not. I do believe that the education funding needs a serious overhaul. I do believe that I am a pro-parent candidate, and I do believe that we need to start funding the students instead of the system. Okay, so if that would affect the busing, I don't see how it would, but I would have to say that I'm against it.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, look, we need to be pro legal immigration, and as a party, and I believe that we are. We're the melting pot. I'm third generation Italian American. We need to bring all the best minds to our country from around the world, and we have to have an open and fair process to that. And so I think that's what's mistaken about our party. It's not we're anti-immigration, we're pro-immigration, we're pro-legal immigration. And so we need everybody to come together on this issue, and we need to secure our borders. And if somebody crosses illegally, I don't think what people understand is, and I know this from my time as a chief compliance officer and fighting money laundering, is these illegals, as they come up, every time they stop along the way, they're being, sexualized, they're being molested, they're being, terrorized, they're being, profited off of. And so it's not a good situation that we have on the southern border.
Thank you. Councilman DelBorrello, let me stick with you on this question. And I'm hoping, it's your call, it's not mine, but I'm hoping this will be a question for each of you where you don't mention your opponents, your primary opponent. In all likelihood, the winner of this race will face Democratic Assemblyman Paul Moriarty in the general election. Voters in your district, in most of your district, have elected Mr. Moriarty 9 times, every time by a relatively wide margin. Why shouldn't he be the senator?
This gets back to the gerrymandering issue we were talking about earlier. And this also gets back to coattails, which I was arguing that Commissioner DeSilvio rode the coattails of Jack Ciattarelli when he won countywide. So that's the issue at play with Paul Moriarty. He was not well liked as a mayor of Washington Township. All his policies I undid. He had years of double-digit tax increases. He created new taxes because he ran out of money. Shed taxes. I helped fill those taxes. My record as a councilman versus Paul Moriarty's record as a mayor is night and day. It couldn't be any different. And so he rode the coattails of Senator Madden, a very well-liked senator. But now this year he can't hide. And so I think the voters will have a very different vote in November if I go against him. But we will not win if our party picks Nick DeSilvio.
Commissioner?
He mentions coattails a lot, but he seems to forget that, he's saying that I rode the coattails of Jack Ciattarelli. I guess he didn't do too well when he rode the coattails of Chris Christie. The difference there is I won the commissioner race or the freeholder race. He lost. Okay. And another thing I would like to mention is the question about Moriarty. He's part of the gun grabbing 3. Okay. That's one of the reasons why I wouldn't see him elected as senator. I believe in my Second Amendment rights. I fought for my country to defend the Second Amendment, unlike my opponent. And I would also like to see him. He comes up with ridiculous. Moriarty comes up with ridiculous bills, like the senior tax freeze is really ridiculous. So that would have to be changed.
All right, let me ask you. I just want to ask you a quick follow-up, and we're running out of time, so we'll go to Matt Rooney next. But just quickly, and hopefully this will be a yes or a no. Commissioner DeSilvio, if Mr. DelBorrello is the nominee against Paul Moriarty, will you support him? Will you campaign for him?
I will support the Republican Party.
Thank you. And Mr. DelBorrello, the same question. If Mr. DeSilvio is the nominee, will he have your support against Paul Moriarty?
That's a tough question. He's run such a nasty campaign against me and my family since day one. That would be very tough for the pill to swallow. But I will support because Paul Moriarty, who we should be focusing our attention on instead of Nick DeSilvio assassinating my character, we should be focusing on Paul Moriarty. But be that as it may, he was so disastrous as a mayor. He's been so disastrous as a Trenton legislator. We need to defeat him in November.
Thank you. And let's do this because we are running out of time. And I promised everybody we'd be out of here a little bit, around 10 o'clock. Matt, rather than me ask another question, let me go to you, Matt, for one more.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, David. We'll start with Councilman DelBorrello. And then, of course, Commissioner DeSilvio, you'll have a chance to answer as well. Councilman, Donald Trump and Chris Christie have criticized Ron DeSantis for taking on the Disney company. Not only its corporate welfare practices in Florida, but also some of its woke excesses. And there's been pushback, certainly. So who's right in this particular internal party struggle? Trump and Christie or Governor DeSantis?
Well, look, I think we have a situation here where, again, like one of my favorite authors, British author Douglas Murray, talks about in his book, The Madness of Crowds, where we're becoming hyperactive. And it's a really shame that two sides are invigorating their debate and rhetoric that makes us hyperactive and active all the time, 24/7. It's just not healthy. It's not good for healthy living. And so the media drives this because they want to sell. The tabloids drive this. And I think in everybody's life, and just take this, the voters that are watching, take some time to enjoy it. We need our entertainment. I want to watch NFL on Sunday with my son and my daughters and root the Eagles on. And I want a respite from all this chaos. I want to go to a Disney movie on a Saturday night with my kids and just be entertained. And so I think that's where we got to get to back as Americans and stop all the insane rhetoric on both sides.
Commissioner?
I think I'm with Governor DeSantis on this one. Disney was getting too big for its britches. They thought that they ran Florida. So I'm glad that DeSantis stepped up and stopped it. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let me, because we're going to go into closing statements in a second. I want to ask one question of both of you. Hopefully it'll be sort of an answer where you're not going to go at each other, but to give a thoughtful position. I did a quick search this evening. I saw that the Courier Post and the South Jersey Times, formerly the Gloucester County Times, they haven't reported on this race at all, even though voting has been underway for 2 weeks. Commissioner, I'll start with you. How big a problem is the local news desert in South Jersey? How are candidates for office expected to get voters to know who they are and what they stand for in a way other than what you pay to put out, what your opponent pays to put out? And what can you do to fix that?
Well, that's a good question. The first thought that came to my mind was social media. Facebook is free, Instagram is free, and Twitter is free. And believe it or not, that's a big, I guess, a big vehicle you could use to spread the word. And I hate to say it, but right now maybe TikTok as well. So just social media in general.
Thank you, Councilman DelBorrello.
Well, I think that's a question, a bigger question in part of the media as a whole, and and print media especially. It's an industry that has changed a lot over the last 20 years with the advent of technology, and so they're struggling to keep staff. They're struggling to keep coverage in all different towns. We're in the Philadelphia market. And when you think about the Philadelphia market, about how big it is, it's the tri-state area. And so I think they're in an industry where they have to adapt and find ways to get coverage.
Okay, thank you. I guess that brings us to a close. We'll start with Councilman DelBorrello for a 90-second opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Again, I want to thank Save Jersey and New Jersey Globe for hosting this debate. And thank you to the viewers for taking time out of your busy lives and watching. You heard a lot tonight. Unfortunately, much of it from my opponents were previously debunked lies, attacking my family and my family business with the same smear campaign used by the Norcross Democrat machine for the last 15 years. Not surprising from Nick DeSilvio, whose campaign is being funded by convicted felons and business partners of the Norcross machine. The truth is that voters have rejected these attacks before, and they will reject them again on June 6th. I am confident in that. Here's what this campaign is about. I held the line on property taxes as a councilman in Washington Township. Nick DeSilvio has a history of increasing property taxes on the school board. I fought the Norcross Democrat machine and won. Nick DeSilvio is letting them fund his campaign. I hired more cops and promoted more cops in Washington Township. Nick DeSilvio voted for a Democrat budget that defunded the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Corrections by $681,000, 5%. Above all, my running mates and I will defeat the Democrats in November and take this seat back for the first time in over 2 decades, while Nick DeSilvio will only guarantee another Republican loss and breathe life into a dying Norcross Democrat machine. On June 6th, please vote for column A in Gloucester County and Atlantic County, and the column number 1 team in Camden County. Chris DelBorrello for Senate, Matt Walker and Amanda Esposito for Assembly. Thank you. God bless you and keep you safe. And have a good night.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
First, I'd like to thank David and Matt for hosting this today. I'd like to start off by saying in 2009, Chris DelBorrello ran for Gloucester County Freeholder and lost, even though Chris Christie won. In 2021, I ran for the same office and won when Jack Chitterelli lost. At the time, the Gloucester County Times called Chris unprepared to serve. He proved them right when he ran Washington Township into the ground. He was proud to raise taxes. He defunded the police and even insulted the police chief. After he was done there, he moved on to his family's shady business, where a supervisor, a relative of Chris, was convicted of fraud for assisting a $1 million money laundering operation. Now he's running for Senate. You have got to be kidding me. South Jersey deserves better than a failed liberal politician. They deserve a conservative fighter like me, someone who serves his country, who serves his community, and who stops at nothing to deliver for his friends, family, and neighbors. I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, pro-parent, and pro-Trump. I'll stand up to the tax-hiking woke political insiders who broke this system. I fought for my country, I fought for my daughter, and now I'm going to fight for you. Please vote in column B. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, Councilman. And most of all, thank you to everyone who watched this debate tonight. Many more of you will watch it in the days and weeks to come. And it is the earnest hope of both the New Jersey Globe and SaveJersey.com that this debate helped you make your decision if you're an LD4 voter and you're going to participate in, I think what David Wildstein very correctly said, is a very consequential race, one which could very much decide control of the legislature in November. I want to thank Councilman Christopher DelBorrello and Commissioner Nick DeSilvio again. As you can see, it is harder than it appears on your screen to subject yourself to this kind of scrutiny, take the questions, and give voters an opportunity to get an up-close and personal view of who you are, what you believe. And, it's not something that we've learned this cycle is automatic. So we appreciate both of you.
Can I say something real quick?
Nah, I think we're done at this point, Commissioner.
Well, I'd like to send condolences out to the Schisler family. They had a loss last night. So
thank you. And going forward, just remember, I want to put some dates out there for everyone. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot by mail in New Jersey is coming up fast, May 30th. If you want to vote in person, you have that ability. That's between June 2nd and June 4th. And then, of course, primary day is June 6th, whether you're voting in LD4 or elsewhere. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation tonight. Go out there and vote. And thank you again for watching.
Thank you.